We lost 8 properties in Kapoho Vacation Land to the Paley on June 5th of this past year. About a third to a half of all the properties in the subdivisions that were destroyed by lava were vacation rentals. Access to that area still hasn't been restored and no rebuilding has been possible. There are still uncertainties as to what will transpire there, land swaps or building permit delays, etc. Insurance settlement delays have made it difficult to buy land elsewhere and rebuild. Only the very wealthy have been able to reestablish their vacation rentals by buying existing vacation rentals in time for your effective date of your rules. The Pahoa economy is suffering due to the destruction of these vacation rentals and the slow Puna recovery efforts by the state and county. The proposed rules impose numerous bureaucratic hurdles that should not be needed. One of the worst, from my perspective, is to not establish a specific approach to consistently dealing with this problem of destroyed vacation rentals. Your Rule 23-22C is what I'm talking about, which is the one you just talked about there, which all it does is in the record-keeping section, as kind of an afterthought, it appears. All it does is restate the general wording of Bill 108. For the people who have lost their vacation rentals in that area, we need more guidance, more help than you're providing. And this part of the rule needs to be finalized as part of this rule package. Or the rule package should be delayed on its implementation, because we've got hundreds of vacation rentals that have been destroyed and it being impossible to rebuild in place and virtually impossible to rebuild elsewhere in the time frames that you're talking about, and not giving consistent guidance. Hello.
Thank you. And then after Magdalene, we'll have Deb Kimball and Chris Becker on deck.
Aloha. My name is Magdalene Phillips, and I'm a homeowner in Puna. The home we live in was our vacation rental before the lava made us homeless. Today, I'm asking for a specific quantifying rule regarding paragraph 23-22C, last page, last paragraph, under the heading of record keeping. This paragraph was copied directly from Bill 108, but gives no specific extension for lava victims in Puna, which is surprising, since the event had already happened by the time Bill 108 was adopted. As it stands, the county has made it impossible for the average lava victim STVR owner to establish a new vacation rental in Puna. They need a lot more time than April 21st, and I am asking for 5 years. Whereas someone with deep pockets could right now purchase an established vacation rental or a home that can be quickly turned into one to meet the deadline, many of those who lost their STVRs cannot afford to do so. They are either Hawaii residents or mainlanders who visited, fell in love with Hawaii, and bought a home as a place to vacation at once or twice a year and to be rented out as an STVR in the meantime to help with mortgage payments and eventually a place to move to after retirement. Now those dreams are shattered, and it'll take longer than April 1st for them to purchase land, wait for their building permit to be approved, build a home, furnish it, and outfit it as an STVR, since that is about half to 2/3 of the price of buying an existing home in the same area. In the meantime, present Pahoa merchants and restaurant owners are having a hard time staying in business because of the loss of visitors, not to mention those who are hoping to start their business in the new shopping center being built right now. Some homes in our area stand vacant because the owners were foreclosed on or the occupants moved to find new jobs. When the lava took Kapoho, it not only took a place to live for some residents, but also their jobs. They were cleaners, handymen, painters, and gardeners who kept STVRs looking well and an asset to the community, and they're now looking for jobs. Please give lava victims the 5 years they need to reestablish their STVRs in and in writing, and not just on an individual basis, since owners cannot afford to take the risk of putting all their money into a new home and then not be able to make the mortgage payments if the application for an STVR is rejected, and on top of it, lose the non-refundable $500 fee. Some lava impacted STVR owners of limited means have already given up because of the uncertainty. So please be fair to those who have lost so much. Give us time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We have Deb Kimball.
My name's Deb Kimball. My husband is William Robinson. We live at 15955 Paradise Alakai in HPP. And my comments will be short and sweet. It starts, my first comment is on 2316G, which states approval or denial of an STVR is based on 4 factors that, quote, may or may not, unquote, be considered when reviewing an application. So if all factors are going to be considered, are all factors equal? Are they given equal weight? That would be my first comment. Or another example in that very same section of unclear language is factor number 1. It states number and distance of STVRs may be reviewed. So if this factor is going to be considered, what is saturation level? Who decides that? Is it the planner who reviews it? If there are requirements or criteria for that determination, it should be spelled out in the bill. So my observation would be that a review process seems to allow a lot of subjectivity. It's based on who reviews your application. So I hope you will consider my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Chris Becker, then IRA Ono on deck.
Hi, my name is Chris Becker, and my husband and I have a vacation rental in Volcano in the Puna district, represented by Miley David. 2 years ago, we sank everything we had into our business and started our new life here. Our business is the sole source of income for us, as well as our handyman and his wife. In addition, it provides significant income for our cleaning lady. In numerous meetings, emails, and phone calls with Miley David and Karen Eoff, among others, we were assured that we would be grandfathered in and be issued non-conforming use permits as long as we were registered and weren't located in a post-1976 ag lot. They made it sound as if all we had to do was be current on our taxes, pay the fee, fill out a registration form, and we'd be good to go. These rules go far beyond that. There is a big difference between an application and a registration. The list of requirements to receive the non-conforming use permit are onerous and designed to frustrate and weed out vacation rentals, which we were assured was not the intent of the ordinance. Although many of the draft rules show overreach, vagueness, and were not mentioned in the ordinance, my main issue has to do with Rule 2310, Section 7, under the registration section. In discussions with planning department employees, it's quickly become apparent that this plot plan is not something that the average homeowner will be able to satisfactorily produce on their own. Having this professionally produced via a survey will cost hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, depending on the property, and add many months to the application time while waiting for that survey. The planning department should have seen all that information when the building permits were produced, inspected, and completed. There is no reason for us to recreate that information at our significant time and expense. In conclusion, I would like to thank you for your time in hearing all our concerns this evening and ask you to please remove Section 2310-7, the plot plan, from the application process, as it is overly burdensome to existing businesses still trying to recover from last summer's eruption and the ongoing business disruption. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Ira Ono and then Chuck Barker.
My name is Ira Ono. I have lived in Volcano for over 35 years and own a small business called Volcano Garden Arts. I'm also the president of Experience Volcano, a group of business people whose goal is to promote Volcano as a gateway community to the Volcano Hawaii National Park. I'm concerned about several causes in Rule 23, the overreach of the Planning Department by creating complicated and expensive rules that are not in the current 108 bill that will financially impact our entire community. Specifically, the Planning Department's proposal to publish the names, locations, house numbers, and tax key maps, keys of vacation rentals in the newspaper is more than just a needless invasion of privacy. It's a roadmap for a crime wave and the invaluable handbook for thieves. If you shop for a vacation rental online, you really see the street address until you're committed to renting the room for good reason. B&Bs and vacation rentals are especially attractive targets for thieves. Not only are they occupied part-time, they're often located in secluded, out-of-the-way locations, attractive to visitors because they are quiet and rural, but attractive to thieves for the same reason. And unlike a standard hotel room, the furnishings themselves are often valuable targets. We have to sell not just a bed, but a unique experience. So our rentals are often furnished with one-of-a-kind furniture, antiques, and/or artwork. With time and privacy, a thief in a remote location can even target large appliances such as stoves and refrigerators. As with all hotel rooms, there are also easily accessible portable valuables such as cameras or computers that our visitors bring, whose loss will taint the experience and that they have come thousands of miles to experience. They are a property of our love and often physical parts of our home. We invest not just dollars in them, we invest in creativity, our personal labor, and self-esteem. As with a home invasion, the thief is invading a part of us. The Bill 108, as we know, has been quite contentious and misunderstood. Question: how would you feel to have your home address published in the newspaper? Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have Chuck Barker come up, and then Michael Frabel on deck, please?
Good evening. I'm Chuck Barker. I am concerned that the overwhelming majority of the public is not in favor of this. This is presented as fait accompli, but it is not. About a half a dozen years ago, many people started to travel differently. East Side is different than West Side, as we all know. West Side people are there in resorts and, timeshare condominiums, and they're playing golf and shopping and, fine dining, and that's great. Many of our visitors are not. They're here to experience something much more, what I would call real, not that the other is unreal, but something that's a little closer to what we experience. Many of the what are called short-term rentals or Airbnb or whatever you want to call them are not necessarily permitted dwellings, and that appears to be completely off the table. If you have a non-permitted dwelling that you probably can't get permitted, you can never, ever use it under this ordinance as a short-term rental. And I can tell you, there are people that are looking for that. They're looking for an off-grid experience or something like that, where, it's a very unfancy way to travel. Having the chance to experience this brings people here to our island that are a separate and additional group to those that go or come here to experience resorts. They're spending money in our restaurants, in our shops, car rentals, travel guides, park fees, buying things that they take home. And this creates employment, it creates tax revenue, it contributes to our economy. Implementation of this ordinance will decimate these opportunities. So I guess I have only two things I want to close with. One is I ask, what is the underlying purpose of this ordinance? And as an adjunct to that, how does it serve us? It seems to create this huge administrative burden, and it's costly. But what do we all gain? What do we gain from this, us? So I cannot see any benefit to the public, and I suggest that we direct our attention to suspension and possible revocation with County Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Frabel and then Lynn Blanchett, please, on deck.
Hi, my name is Michael Frabel, and I appreciate you pronouncing my last name correctly. And thank you for having us here for the testimony. I appreciate you being here on a Friday, especially in late afternoon. I'm going to bring up two quick points. Section 23-12B, as you mentioned, is in reference to renewal applications and that they must be submitted 60 days prior to the non-conforming use expiration date. Section 2312D, as you pointed out, also states that if you don't renew by the expiration date, this you'll basically become ineligible for renewal. There are a number of life events that could cause an individual to file late, such as illness, accident, or family tragedy. To lose your business and means of income for filing late seems a very harsh punishment. Perhaps an additional late fee might be more appropriate. I know of no other regulation where the punishment is so severe. This would be a bit like, it would be a bit like being late on your vehicle license tag and being told you can never drive your car again. I would also like to point out quickly that in reference to, you mentioned this before, vacation rentals where the owner resides on the property. Section 23-3K, as you pointed out, states short-term vacation rental means a dwelling unit where the operator does not reside on the building site. Section 23-8A states you must apply by September 28, 2019 to legally operate. To summarize, an existing vacation rental where the owner lives on the property, I understand you don't define it that way, is not addressed in Bill 108 nor Rule 23 and cannot apply for non-conforming use certificate or register with the county. However, if you were to move or pass away or send your property to your children, you would have to cease operation and there is no path to continue operation. And that, in my opinion, is in complete opposition to the purpose statement of Bill 108, which states to provide an avenue for existing use deemed to be improper by this ordinance to apply for a non-conforming use certificate that would allow them to continue to operate in a non-permitted district. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lynn Blanchett and Ted Powell on deck, please.
My name is Lynn Blanchett, and my husband and I live in HPP, and the issue that we're addressing right now is about 23-9 in the fees section, and the $500 application fee, as we understand it, is non-refundable even if you are not approved. So you have spent that $500 for nothing. Yes. And what we were thinking might be more fair is if you require a $250 non-refundable fee that you would not get back. If you are approved, then an additional $250 fee would be required before the permit is issued. It's a little more fair, at least we think. Thank you.
Thank you.
So my name is Ted Powell. I bought a house 8 years ago in Cloley Point in HPP. It was a foreclosure, it was abandoned. I fixed it up. And my wife and I have been coming back from Houston, Texas twice a year for all these years. And then in between, we offer the experience of a short-term vacation rental to people around the world who want to come and experience and blend into with the locals in the neighborhood and not stay in a Disney-like resort bubble. But as an engineer, I look at this and I want to decide, because the understanding is there's the $500 application fee plus the postage for 2 notifications for, in my case, there's going to be upwards of 23 parcels within 300 feet, and then the postage will be like $230 on top of that, plus my time to create 11 by 17 plot plans and all this. and decide whether, in the end, I'm going to be denied for some tripwire reason, because as was previous testimony, this 2316G, there's basically the criteria the director uses. It's up to his discretion. It's very loose. There's really nothing you can pin down to say, oh, I feel confident I'm going to get this. And the other comment would be the character of the neighborhood is mentioned several times, and who determines that? That's another fuzzy point. And the character of the neighborhood, as I see it, is everybody around me, they're long-term rentals. The owners, I've never met an owner of any of the homes around me. They're all rented out. And of course, there's a lot of unimproved lots with owners as far away as Massachusetts, and I'm going to spend a lot of money notifying. I know I'm running over. There's a couple other things, though. What was previously mentioned about the advertising in the paper, but you also have in here 2363 that you have a notice visible to the county director from this. I don't know, from the street or whether, but it's further advertising of your house and makes it a target for break-ins. So there needs to be some definition around that. This discussion about 2310C9 submitting permits. My house was built in 1980. I did put some solar systems on permits, but those are all on record. So if they ask, what is it you're asking me to produce there? The other thing I have is 2312B. You have in there for the renewal of the non-compliance certificate, 90 days. You can't submit more than 60 days in advance, but the director has up to 90 days to approve it, which doesn't make any sense because you could be you'd be already 30 days past the expiration of that, possibly. Also, I'd like to know, when is the application form drafts going to be available for review? Those would be another part of the information I would need to decide whether I even want to go through this process or not. Thank you.
Thank you. Joy Dillon, please, and then Donna Herbst.
Hi, my name is Joy Dillon. I'm representing the Hawaii Island Realtors. I'm the chair of the Government Affairs Committee. Good evening, Director Yee and members of the Hawaii County Planning Department. Thank you for this opportunity for public testimony. In regard to Rule 23, short-term vacation rentals, the Hawaii Island Realtors have many concerns and questions. A survey of our members resulted in strong feedback. In the interest of time, I will summarize the major issues here, and Realtor members will be submitting our full response to the Planning Department shortly. And I do apologize ahead of time. I have a couple things in here that you said you were already going to take out, so if I mention them again, I apologize. General provision section. There was great concern over the ability of the quote-unquote reachable person to be able to return a phone call within 1 hour and to be on site within 3 hours. The on-site requirement time frame was noted to be a possible safety hazard. Eligibility section 23-5B, parking. There may not be parking availability even in resort zone condos or homes. 23-6C, character of a neighborhood cannot be legislated. Also, weddings held on private property do not need a permit. 23-7C, invalidating PUDs, you did cover that previously and said that that was going to be removed. Application section. The application section garnered the most concerns from our realtor survey, and the responses filled over 2 pages. Realtors have an in-depth knowledge regarding the issues involved here, and we believe that their responses should be taken seriously. To be brief, the main issues are time constraints, non-refundable fees, requirements for floor plans and possible surveys, and old building permits that may not have been closed in the past due to no fault of the current owners. The application process also garnered many responses The main concerns are the requirements to notify surrounding properties twice. There was very strong opposition to publishing the name, TMK, and location in the newspaper. Compliance section, record keeping. Most owner-operators do not have access to permits, plans, applications, and filing unless the structure is very new. Most owners are not going to be able to comply with this requirement. In closing, we would like to state that the proposed administrative rules appear to be very onerous and complicated. Most owners will not have the time and expertise to navigate the system and comply with the requirements, and therefore will need to hire someone to do it for them. The requirements appear to go beyond the wording or intent of Bill 108. We urge the Planning Department to take all the public testimony to heart and rework the rules and requirements so that applications can actually be completed and approved in a reasonable time frame. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Donna Herbst, and then James Ken Stewart, please.
Aloha, my name is Donna Herbst. My plea to this body is to relax the pending procedures. If a STVR can already prove their last 3 years in paying taxes, they're in good standing with the neighborhood, supported by at least 3 letters from immediate neighbors, can show their property is legal, why not allow them to continue without the burden of applying for a special use permit? None of this application applies to the bed and breakfast or hosted properties, and they can surely cause just as much noise and parking violations. I don't recall the bed and breakfast operations had to obtain a non-conforming use permit and pay the processing and annual fees that you're asking now. The rules say the director may consider things such as the number and distance of other proposed or permitted short-term rentals. Why is that a consideration, and what standards are used? Also, there is no reason for a second notice requirement for non-conforming use as stated in 23-15. Just more paperwork, waste of time, and another $100 fee. And are you really going to take the time to publish applicants' names twice a month in our newspaper? Get rid of that policy. It's entirely uncalled for. The reason for requiring the 11x17 paper is that kept on file. Can't the same sketch be done on an 8x11? Much easier and more economical. I figure I paid $7,000 in transient accommodation fees alone last year. That $7,000 won't be coming to the state and county taxes on my part, as well as hundreds of others if these policies are put into practice. There's a lot of revenue out there in a time when the county is hiking every possible service we pay for. This is just shooting ourselves in the foot. My one request for an addition to this rule is 23-4A, number 5, which reads, multiple family residential RM, and I'd like to add in or RS for multiple family dwellings, and added the word or units, with a condominium property regime as defined and governed by Chapter 514A and 514B, Hawaii Revised Statutes. These should also be eligible, as they are, basically they look like a duck, they quack like a duck. They are a duck, it's housing many people, and they do have general managers on site. They're used to working with groups of visitors and have assigned parking, and they have quiet hours. After all, where are we going to house the 10,000 plus people coming to Mary Monarch visitors in April? Or do we say goodbye to that too?
Thank you. Can we have James come up, please, and then Janet Curtis?
My name is James Stewart. Thank you for letting me speak here today. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to host in Hawaii. I have hosted for years in the past. I just wanted to say that we have to be very careful how we treat our guests that come to Hawaii. They're smart, and if our hosts are stressed out and are having issues, they're going to know it. So I know that we have a hosted and an unhosted avenue for hosting here, and there is a big market of guests that prefer to have accommodations private with not somebody next one wall away and whatnot. So just that's all I want to say is be careful how we treat our guests. They're smart, and they'll reroute to other markets if they don't feel that we're taking care of them.
Thank you. Janet Curtis, and then Susan Bergman, please.
Good evening. My name is Janet Curtis. I own a legal STVR in Lower Puna, and my husband and I rely on the income that helps us pay the mortgage, medical bills, and the upkeep with utilities, and we also employ 2 persons that rely on our property for their income on a weekly basis. We are asking you to please consider the following concerns. I'm not going to list them all, but the most concerning for us right now is, I'm sure you've heard others, about 2315B5. It's regarding the newspaper. Sorry. Once you publicize this on the newspaper, it is also on digital form, so it does go on the World Wide Web. So anybody on the internet will see it, and it'll forever be there online. So, you know, that is going to be in grounds for identity theft. So anybody can Google our place and take pictures and basically take our identity, take our pictures of our property online and start advertising for us, which, you know, is very concerning because they can pretend to be us, advertise our place and collect money. And so that's just not right. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Susan Bergman and Lisa King.
Hi, I'm Susan Bergman. I have a short-term vacation rental down in Hawaiian Beaches. I'm here tonight because it's just, I really wish that we had the rules for hosted rentals in place so that we would know what decision we were actually making, because some of us are attempting right now to be hosted, and it would be really easy to go with the unhosted option if we could count on these rules, but we still don't know what you're actually going to require from the hosted renter, you know, short-term rental. So why should we all be, why are you in such a hurry for us to make a decision when you haven't outlined what the other path will actually be? And how many people do you have to hire to get these things? How many of us are filing, and how many people are you going to have to take on to actually get us all through? 8? Only 8. God, I bet they're great people. I just know they are. I don't know, I just want to second everything that everybody else has said tonight because their concerns were much better stated than mine, but thank you.
Thank you.
One last thing, I have cards and my husband will draw your plans if you need them. On time.
Lisa King and then Lorna Larson-Jetty.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Dr. Lisa King, and my research in the past has focused primarily on World Heritage sites, tourism, and the communities within World Heritage sites and around them. And the previous speaker mentioned something that's absolutely true, that short-term vacation rentals, homestays, and couch surfing is going to be here for the next generation. And we need to find ways to work together, your planning department and ourselves as short-term vacation rental owners, to get the best of both worlds here, where it's regulated properly and to your satisfaction, but so where we can still stay in business. Now, the thing I would primarily like to say, I agree with so much of what's been said here, is that I think we should need another set of hearings after you've revised the rule. So we have a last time to make comment. There's so many parts of this rule that are vague, that's going to have to be reworked. I'm sure we would all appreciate a second and final opportunity to make comment before it's codified. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Lorna and then Lucretia Worcester, please.
Aloha, Planning Department, Hawaii Island County Planning Department. My name is Lorna Larson Yaita, and my husband and I live in Volcano. We're recently retired from owning and managing the Kilauea Lodge, where we also had several vacation rentals. My talk, or 2.5 minutes left, are mostly about a research paper done by Cloninger and Sims. Cloninger is a Kama'aina, and he was asked by HTA to please prepare a economic impact report about vacation rentals. And this was published last summer. I begin the quotes, so I have several quotes, and this is about the onerousness of what we're hearing tonight. Quote, "It becomes clear just how important the vacation rental industry is for residents and local businesses, particularly outside of traditional resort districts. Money spent in the vacation rental industry is money going straight into the pockets of local residents and small business owners who rely on the extra revenue brought in by visitors year after year." Continuing with quote, "Public policy should reflect the demand for a wide variety of accommodations in the dynamic and evolving tourism economy. Imposing harsh restrictions or completely eliminating vacation rentals, particularly outside of traditional resort areas, would cause serious economic harm." Continuing with a quote, "Looking to limit at any one type of accommodations presents a wide variety of consequences. Lost income for residences, less activity for small businesses, decreased revenue to local government, and fewer options for families who otherwise may not be able to visit our beautiful shores." Quote, "Alternative accommodation homeowners and operators value their communities and the ability to provide an authentic experience for visitors." Quote, "Accordingly, local leaders will need to consider the cost to the local economy as they continue to devise a policy framework for alternative accommodations. A balanced and fair approach should allow communities, residents, and businesses to continue reaping the benefits of these options. If they fail to do so, the cost to the economy and local families could threaten the survival of Hawaii's vibrant tourism industry." End of quote. Now it's me. As we learned in the news this morning, Hawaii's visitor arrivals experienced a drop in 2018 in comparison to prior years. There are a number of factors contributing to this slowdown. If Hawaii deletes many vacation rentals as alternative accommodation choices, travelers might seek their vacation rentals in Mexico, Florida, the Caribbean, Southern California, all communities with a peripheral of options. Please, Planning Department, don't make STVR compliance expensive and time-consuming and onerous, as many homeowners on the east side of the island, the site most affected by recent natural disasters, flooding and lava, might leave the industry. Regulate fairly and reasonably, and please then enforce the rules."
Thank you. If we can call up Lucretia, please, and then Gilbert Yaita.
So my name is Lucretia Worcester. My husband and I own several small vacation rentals in Volcano, which are our primary source of income. I'm also a member of Experience Volcano, which is a business group that concentrates on preserving our small town economy and our local culture. So the most successful laws are clearly understood, simple to adhere to, and evenly enforced. There are multiple parts of Rule 23 which do the opposite and far overreach what was outlined in the council-approved ordinance. Specifically, I am concerned about the overwhelming cost to small business owners. The council reassured us if we were paying our taxes, following the rules, and pay the $500 registration fee, we would be grandfathered in. This is not true. The ordinance says that a map of parking and rooms for rent is required. Rule 23, Section 10, 7, and 8 expands upon that considerably. The homeowner not only has to create a drawing with the property outlines, dimensions, all the outbuildings, eaves, overhangs, parking, roads, internal rooms, and any other structure or feature that the director might desire, because they haven't told us about it because it's at his discretion, are all drawn perfectly to scale and printed on an 11 by 17, which most home printers do not print, and is beyond the skill of the average business owner. Several people have asked both the planning and the building department, and they were all told that a survey is preferred. That is $850 to $1,500, and there is currently a 30-day wait, and that is without this bill being in effect. I also have a problem with the 2 notification system, which you addressed. I would like to see them come up with another way than certified mail, because that's well over $100, and if you have a small lot, like someone said, it could be $200 to $300 in order to meet that, and that is ridiculous. I also have a problem with Rule 23 requires a signed STVR compliance notice. No one knows what this is. Many people have gone down and asked in the planning department, and they cannot be told what this is. This was not in the ordinance in any way. After a $2,000 expenditure, there are so many points in Rule 23 that are undefined or at the director's discretion. A small business owner like myself could easily spend a month or 2 income just trying to complete all of these requirements and still walk away with a defunct business and no way to pay our bills. Please remember that this ordinance was not meant to be a registration of a currently legal tax-paying small business. Rule 23 is not only an overreach, it is expensive, and it does not reflect the ordinance as written. It breaks every promise that the council members made to the small business communities like ours. Our livelihoods are at stake, and our small towns like Volcano are at stake. So just to reiterate, I'd like you to remove the requirement of the detailed to scan and replace it, and then also clearly define the requirements. Thank you.
Thank you. If we can have Gilbert come up, please, and then Jordan Sonner on deck, please. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Albert Yaite. I live in Volcano. My wife just spoke earlier. And I just wonder what kind of democracy we are in, because these rules from the planning department should have been involved in the city council meeting prior to before they approved and be heard at the city council meeting. So we have someone to be responsible for the action that's been taken. Also, I would like to say that all these rules, and I'm not going to point out one or the other, but I think all the rules are onerous and are completely unnecessary, because for years we have operated our business for 32 years, and we have had vacation rentals, and they were incorporated in the business, with the business. And we paid thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on all the taxes. What happened to those taxes? Nothing. We haven't gotten anything in Volcano for any of the money the businesses are paying up there. So why are we now seeking big regulations for businesses? These businesses with vacation rentals, they are specifically for people, specific people that come to this island or to Hawaii. Now I hear that the state even wants to eliminate short-term vacation rentals altogether. Now, all this business is generated the idea of eliminating vacation rental and making it hard to even operate vacation rentals. It's nothing but a resort and hotel operated the decision. The matter of fact, the Hawaii Tourism Authority, their statement says completely different things than what the director of the organization is saying now. He is against it. And why? Because for 30 years he worked for Marriott Hotels. And it's completely, he shouldn't be even working for that organization. So I yield my time to someone else.
Thank you. Jordan Sonner, please, and then Jesse Tennyson. Welcome back.
Been a long time since last night in Kona. You know, I don't want to continue to touch on a lot of the things that you guys got pounded with last night and that you're getting a lot tonight, mostly being the plot plan requirements as well as the publishing the list of applications, publishing their names for Digest and TMK in the newspaper. I said that last night. One thing I do want to talk about again, also for the benefit of the people in the room, is 23-16G1. The non-conforming use certificates consideration can include the number and distance of other proposed short-term vacation rentals. Like I said last night, this is something that was not put in the bill intentionally, this quota system. In the talks that I had with the counselors over the more than a year that they spent working on this bill and that we spent trying to work with them, they looked at the way that Maui did it, they looked at the way that other areas did quota systems, and they decided not to do it. And what this section here does is it basically allows for a quota system without actually making a formal quota system, not one that we're privy to, not one that we can be on a waiting list for in the way that Maui does. I think it's a really big overreach. I think it's something that you guys are going to be dealing with potential litigation on in the future if somebody is compliant in every other area for every other reason and they're declined because there are a certain number of vacation rentals in the neighborhood already. The last one I want to touch on is the declared emergency clause. Last page, last section. It was really upsetting to read this and see that the exact same paragraph from the bill was copied and pasted here into the rules. We talked over and over and over with the counselors during the process of making the bill, and they decided not to put the details of the disaster recovery into the bill because that was going to be to the discretion of planning. So we were given the, that's what I'm looking for, the impression, thank you. We were given the impression that, that we would understand better what this disaster recovery would look like for us. And we are at the heels of one of the largest natural disasters our state's ever seen. This is going to set a precedent for everything going forward and how we deal with emergencies in the future and how we are able to replenish our lost rental stock going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Jesse, please, Tennyson, and then Robert Golden.
Hello, my name is Jesse Tennyson. I'm a photographer, cinematographer, director, and producer living and working in the volcano area of the Big Island. I mainly work in marketing and advertising, and obviously that largely focuses with a lot of small businesses that we have here on the Big Island. Having grown up in Volcano here on the Big Island, I've been fortunate enough to boast that it takes a village to raise a child. I should know, I am very much a product of that result. My life thus far has been defined by not only Hawaii Volcanoes National Park and the residents in the surrounding areas, but also by the small businesses that have appeared as a result of the volcano area being the gateway community to the foremost visitor attraction in the state of Hawaii, our beloved Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. In the months following the 2018 Kilauea eruption, I was unfortunate enough to experience what, as an individual who does not work in vacation rentals, what my business would look like if I took a severe hit, let alone the other businesses around me. It was all too depressing. I saw local galleries, restaurants, and stores cut back on hours for their staff, if not laying them off entirely. Unfortunately, my sister was one of them. I also witnessed what is arguably the most potent economic contributor in the volcano area suffer severely, namely our local vacation rentals. It is accurate to say that the owners and managers of vacation rentals in the volcano area are themselves a gateway to the Big Island. Hawaii is defined by culture and nature and its ability, as corny as it may sound, spread aloha. This is unique to who we are, and this is largely what makes our local vacation rentals the preferred choice of lodging while visitors stay here on the Big Island. If vacation rentals were to be severely restricted as Rule 23 proposes, the economic impact to not only myself but many other small business owners, including TVR owners, would be devastating. In short, our local economy in the volcano area and the Big Island are highly dependent on vacation rentals and the visitors that they welcome to the Big Island. I know this to be true simply because I am one of the small business owners who knows what Rule 23 would do in an economic sense here. I am asking the county to go on ahead and do an economic impact study for individuals not only like myself who do not personally own, manage, or are employed by a short-term vacation rental, but for the many businesses that are able to go on ahead and benefit as a result of their existence. This is the world I know, this is the world that I've grown up in, and this world is an island world, and it is a very strong one at heart, and is something that we are not on any short level of aloha on. So I appreciate your time, especially on a Friday evening, and I thank you for your time and effort for considering everyone's efforts and energies that they have placed into their TVRs.
Thank you. Robert Golden, and then we'll have the director come up and kind of address some of what we've heard to this point and take a little bit of a break.
Aloha. Thank you for this opportunity to provide feedback on Rule 23. My partner and I live in Leilani Estates since 2013, having moved from New York. We operate one hosted Airbnb unit on the site in which we live and another unhosted Airbnb unit on the adjoining property since 2015. We will be applying for and registering to continue operation of the latter unit. We have paid general excise taxes and transit accommodation taxes for both units since we started operations. Serving as an Airbnb host has been a win-win. It has provided necessary income, provided necessary taxes for the state of Hawaii, and provided a quality experience for our guests who have rated us as superhosts and given us a 5-star rating. We fully support the implementation of Ordinance 18-114, as we believe that vacation rentals, like other businesses, should be fairly regulated and should pay their requisite taxes. We also characterize Rule 23 as excessive, needlessly intrusive, overreaching, and ironically counterproductive to reach the initial objectives of this ordinance. We fully support the comments that you have received from Airbnb regarding Rule 23. We'd like to make some additional comments. Forbes magazine has given Hawaii an overall rating of 46 out of 50 states in terms of its business climate. Why is that? We feel that Rule 23 as currently written is a good example of how not to create a climate that supports the growth of business. I believe you have created onerous hoops for vacation owners to jump through. For example, why is it necessary to create plot maps drawn to scale? A survey map would be a most expensive way to provide this information. Our home is permitted and all the relevant information is posted online. Why do we need to duplicate this? Why do we have the burden of providing signed permits? Why are you publishing the listings of approved rental properties? This is an invasion and leaves our properties vulnerable for theft. Now a thief would know what properties would be unoccupied, especially during the day when guests are out. Why are you not sending out renewal notices? Renewal notices are sent out for taxes, car registration, driver registration. The impact on me is that you're trying to get the vacation owner. Why do we have only 10 days to respond? Why do we only have 10 days to respond to an incomplete application? Another onerous imposition. Why do we have to send out notices twice to neighbors? I would love to be able to write Forbes magazine and extol the virtues of operating a vacation rental on the island of Hawaii. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're going to kind of take a quick halftime here, but before we take a short break, I'm going to try to hit a few of the main topics, not trying to drive down into specifics, but hopefully enlighten you at least where we're coming from. Non-conforming philosophy. Non-conforming in land use is exactly that. There's an authority for governments to change land use. And if you were doing something, you then are considered non-conforming. You create that area of non-conforming. So we have a whole section on non-conforming uses and what we do when government creates that situation. Your council, folks, intentionally created non-conforming. Okay, I cannot underline that enough. It was an intentional decision on their part not to have permitted areas and unpermitted areas and to create non-conforming. Okay, so there's generally a philosophy that within non-conforming, it's exactly that. We don't want you in an area that's non-conforming. That's what land use is about. We try to dictate where things are and where things aren't. Okay, and when government comes in and makes the decision on the council, in this case on the bill, they made a decision where they wanted it to go. Okay, so yeah, whether or not you like it or not, it's not my choice either. The bill has passed. I now have got to implement what's in the bill. So just want to cover that. It's my job to implement what the bill is. That's the bottom line. The mayor. So just covering that. Within the hearings, there were a few really intentional conversations around whether or not to include hosted or unhosted. And it landed on only addressing unhosted. Hosted was clearly a decision, and in this case, there are other council folks that want to pick up the conversation on what I've been calling like part 2 vacation rental, which we were consistently saying they will have to address hosted vacation rentals, vacation destination zones such as Volcano, Puna, agricultural lands, okay? And it was a very intentional thing on your council to craft a bill that they felt that they could pass as a group by the end of November 2018, okay? So they did whatever they did based on what they thought they could pass, okay? Within that, there was very intentional conversations around areas like Volcano and Puna. It was recognized that, yes, there is a need for vacation rentals. I don't think anybody dismisses that as a fact. So then there was also a conversation, even an amendment put forth at council for an economic feasibility impact. And your council said no. Okay, so I cannot underline enough that conversation happened at council. That would have dictated needs and resources, and they chose not to. Okay, so I'm not in a situation with resources or anything to implement an economic feasibility study, okay, in this case. Yeah, you can go to council records. Yeah, it's in council records. I'm sure there might have been 1 or 2 votes from other folks. Okay. Critical to conversations around lava recovery. So not talking just about vacation rentals. We're talking about lava in general, the 60 million we're trying to get from the ledge at this point. A lot has been hinging from a planning standpoint around a risk assessment right now that a consultant is trying to put together for us. There's hazard assessment, so you know zones 1 and 2. That dictates a hazard. That is not a risk assessment. For us to create policy takes a risk assessment. So we're in the middle of having the consultant do that, and we get that stuff, and then we can try to think about certain policies in terms of building or whatever. Now, again, right now, there's not a moratorium like you can't turn in a building permit in certain areas. You certainly can, but there are probably some restrictions building's going to put on, possibly on new or expanding a footprint in certain lava areas right now. But I'm not building, so I can't speak for them. Rules. Whether or not we like it, legislative, be it state, feds, they create laws. They never think about the rules and how they have to hit the ground. Okay, seldom. And it's always left to the civil service and the administrative departments to try to implement what a president says, a governor says, or a mayor says. Okay, in this case, the city council with their bill. So I would have loved to have time to craft rules prior to an adoption. But guess what? It doesn't happen. Seldom does that happen, or government given the resources to provide that kind of analysis before a bill is passed. Right now, I got 4,000 bills that will go through the legislative session. I have to track hundreds of them with not a single senator typically calling me about, or representative asking my opinion about something that's going to affect Hawaii Island. I have to do all the work to track what they're trying to plan for us. Okay, and so, you know, it's a system that I don't think is very efficient or effective, but it's the one I have to live in and deal with the consequences of it. Philosophically, permits, it's in the bill. Philosophically, there's this idea that people should be staying in safe places, hence the requirement for wanting permits. Understand, we process thousands of permits within planning, and so does building. Okay, building is different from planning. We're covering subdivisions, variances, you know, other setback issues. So we do a variety of things. If you've ever worked with our front counter, you know most of our staff are dealing with a wide variety of issues and trying to assess what's in front of them. So now we put on their plate thousands of vacation rentals that they now have got to review based on what the bill said, which was you're going to meet building permits, right? You're going to be able to put all your parking on site, right? And just like anybody else applying for anything, we have to have the ability for them to have the information they need to make a decision, to make a review. They do this today without having people spend thousands of dollars on a plot plan or a site plan.
Then why do they tell us that that's what they want? Multiple people have gone to your office and they said that's what they want.
So right now we're in the rules writing, okay? So this is... So, exactly. So in writing bills or legislation, you will not get to federal law, state law, county law, ordinances that dictate every little detail to rule level. Otherwise, why would you have rules? Okay, so you got to understand that's a fact of life, that everything in a bill, in an ordinance, is not going to mandate everything. Everything comes down to an administrative level for us to have some leeway to be able to administrate what we feel the bill is trying to tell us. In this case, when they say non-conforming, we refer to our non-conforming rules that say, okay, now we're going to produce, it's two notifications and stuff like that. If we want to change that, we then have to change that code. Okay? So a lot of stuff we're dumping into the rules is straight from other sections that we feel are related. This is why we have the hearing. You can come up here and shake your head and say, no, I disagree, and show us where you feel like we're overstepping or it's not applying. That's what the hearings are for, okay? So that's why we appreciate the comments. I've heard some really good ones. We heard some last night that are going to make us adjust some things that we do. So one last comment would be April 2nd is the final hearing, okay? That has been advertised. It's been known for a while. I testified in front of the Planning Committee at Councilwoman Kirkovitz's request, where I laid out the plan for these two meetings and for the April 2nd meeting. And I laid out that 2 weeks from now is our goal to get the second draft out, and then there would be a couple of weeks prior to the second to get further comments. Okay, so that's already been built in, it's already been advertised for that meeting. Okay, so there will be time. I will say by that point, by April 2nd, because April 1st is the effective date, I'm really hoping we've crafted something that, 99% we're there at that point. Okay? Again, there's a lot of leeway with my authority to implement the rules. So at this point, it has to be constructive things that I'm hearing to affect what's going to go into the rules. Okay? If you feel like I'm overstepping or it's not embedded somewhere, then point it out, and then we'll certainly look at it. Okay? Trying to. What time? 6 o'clock? Here. There's not one in Kona. You guys are special. But after tonight, trust me, I should have done it in Kona, I think. But I think that's it for now. So 5-minute break so we can take a quick bathroom break for staff. I'm and a couple others may be floating around if you have a quick question.
Good evening, and thank you very much for allowing us to come to the hearing. Thank you for the clarification on the document here. That was very helpful. My name is Muriel Hughes, and my husband and I have a vacation rental in Volcano, but actually we're teachers and school administrators. And while we were administrators, I always wanted to take my students out to go to a living laboratory like Volcano to actually see things, not in the book. If we go someplace, we're going to go and write right in the location that we're reading about. And, you know, it's very expensive. And I think what we're seeing here is the people who have vacation rentals are filling a need that's not being met. Because in Volcano, there's only KMC and Volcano House, and there are thousands of visitors that come to the national park every year. So we are providing a service, and it's a personal service where we provide hospitality and not in the box. You go to a front desk and they say, go to room blah blah. We actually go to the house, we greet our visitors, we show them around, they ask us questions. It's a one-to-one kind of relationship that many of the hosts here are providing. And the other thing is that the kind of lodging that we're providing is relatively inexpensive. We have a 5-bedroom house. The whole house rents for $350. You go to a hotel, most of the hotels for a couple, say, are like $200. So where can a teacher who wants to give her children the experience to be out in the living laboratory go for that kind of money, you know? So we are providing a service. My question has to do with 23.9 fees. Fees collected under the rule are non-refundable and will be deposited in a short-term vacation rental enforcement account. I do very much understand the need that the county has to find out how many people have vacation rentals. I understand that. Before we started our business, I filled out all the paperwork to do a B&B and found out that we weren't going to be running a B&B, but rather a guest rental. I can understand the need for that. But besides the cost, I want to know what are the benefits of all of these fees and the non-compliance fees. What do we as the law-abiding, tax-paying business owners get from all these funds?
Thank you. Dan Whetstone, please, and then next, Morris Naimi.
Hello, my name is Dan Whetstone. There are a lot of people out there who feel that anyone who operates a business in a residential area should have to jump through some extra hoops. You know, they shouldn't even be allowed. This is our story. My wife and I purchased our current residence in Honolulu in 2000. We spent the next 15 years while working for the state of Hawaii putting every extra dollar we had into making it into exactly the home we wanted. When we retired in late 2015, we found that we really enjoyed just staying home and enjoying the view, working in the yard, reading on the lanai, and other leisure activities. Our enjoyment lasted a little over a year when in early 2017, the 4-bedroom house with a pool and water slide next door to us was sold. And the new owner turned it into a vacation rental. Since then, most of our days consist of hearing yelling and screaming coming from the vacation rental as the kids and adults use the pool during the day, and then loud talking and laughing as they sit and on the back lanai eating and drinking. And then there is the arrival and departure days, when 2 to 3 carloads of people exit their vehicles, slamming doors, looking around, going back to get their luggage, slamming all the doors again, and then using their fobs to lock the cars, honking the horns in the process. It's like living next door to a resort hotel or community pool. At least Bill 108 should keep them from continuing to host big events like the ones where we have counted 20 cars in the street in front of the vacation rental and had to listen to loud amplified music for most of the day. I still can't understand why these properties are being grandfathered in. Are there any fighting chicken raising properties grandfathered in any residential areas? Why wasn't anyone notified when these commercial vacation rentals were allowed to start operating in our neighborhood? Opponents of the spaceport and other lifestyle impacting developments certainly seem to be having a chance to voice their opinions. Why weren't we given that opportunity? I guess it's too late to complain about grandfathering in, so the only thing we have left is to plead with the appropriate departments for full enforcement of the rules imposed by 108. I see that renewal may be denied if police reports are verified or verified neighbor complaints of noise and other disturbances are received. Will the police send the reports to the director, or will we have to get them and copy them? Do we call in, email, or send a letter with our complaints? Do we need or include video evidence? We've all heard that the #1 concern of the owners of these vacation rentals is to provide accommodation for visitors to the island and to help the local economy. I'm sure making a profit and paying off their mortgages is only secondary. Please keep in mind when funding and staffing the enforcement of this bill that many long-term residents just want to enjoy their quiet neighborhoods the way they were built, designed, and zoned for. Thank you.
Morris Naimi, and then Michael Garbarino next.
Aloha. My name is Morris Naimi. I've been hosting visitors and some local residents at my vacation rental for 7 years now. My rental is located in the Puna district in the Hawaiian Paradise Park community. Operating and hosting a vacation rental has helped me to meet the expenses of owning and maintaining my home and meeting my expenses of raising a family in Hawaii. Many visitors who travel to Hawaii County on a limited budget are able to do so because of the availability of STVRs located within the communities on the island. I'm commenting against Rule 23-15 Part 5, which states, the director shall publish on a semi-monthly basis a list of all applications accepted under this rule in at least 2 newspapers of general circulation in the county, including name of the property owner, TMK number of the property, the land area, and the STVR street address. This information should be kept private to protect the homeowner. I personally know of homes that were vacant for a short period of time that have been seriously vandalized. The publishing of such personal information will allow vandals to easily identify and scrutinize the STVR properties during times when the rental is vacant. And I believe that when private information is disclosed to the general public, and this is digital now, and it'll be worldwide once you publish it in the newspaper, it will expose the property owner to added risk of vandalism and malicious destruction of personal property. I would seriously request that the publication of personal information in a public registry be reconsidered and omitted. Thank you for allowing me this time for public testimony.
Thank you, sir. May we have Michael Garbarino and Joe Horvath on deck?
Aloha. My name's Michael Garbarino. I'm a local attorney. I live in Lower Puna. I don't currently operate a vacation rental. I do have clients who do. The primary area of my law practice is in real estate and real estate-related matters, including property valuation. I'd like to point out in the final bullet of the slide that's on display, the director's very cognizant comment that If it's in the ordinance, then it was vetted through the county council. They passed it. You have no discretion. I recognize that. I was a government servant for many years. I recognize the comments you made earlier in that regard. I'm sympathetic. I'd like to point out a particular provision that where I think respectfully the rule is overreaching because it contains language not in the ordinance. In the ordinance, and I'm talking with respect to 25.4 subsection B7, it speaks to situations where a short-term vacation rental is not registered within the deadlines, and in which case it will be considered an unpermitted use if it's not registered by the deadline set forth in this law, until such time that proper registration and compliance is obtained. By comparison, when one looks in the rule at 23.8 subsection D, you've added a phrase. You've added an STVR in a permitted zoning district. Now, I see some intent here, and the intent is to try and put a time limit on the grandfathering and to close out any opportunity. And in regard to that, I would also like to call attention to what was commented on by others earlier in regard to the very final section of the rule, which is titled record keeping, but specifically subsection C, which, as was covered by earlier comments, states verbatim what is in the ordinance, notwithstanding that the ordinance actually commands you, sir, to do a certain thing. It says that you shall assess the effect of such loss upon the affected district and, among other things, administrative opportunities to restore such loss. There is nothing in this rule, sir, that addresses that. I live in Lower Puna. I live in an area where the lava has destroyed over 700 permitted homes. Per earlier testimony, many of which were active operating vacation rentals contributing to the local economy. There is nothing in this rule that addresses that loss of economic opportunity and the ability for the local economy to restore itself in that area. Taken together with the addition of in a permitted zoning district, you are foreclosing the opportunity in these ag-zoned areas that are pre-1976 for the law as is stated to be implemented. And in that regard, with all respect, you are overreaching, and it could well become a matter of litigation if you don't address, it's not just a record-keeping requirement, sir, it is a shall. You need to expand in rule administratively how you're going to address this issue, and you need to take out the in permitted zoning district from 23.8 subsection D. You have no authority to do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Can we have Joe Horvath and then Jarek Medeiros Garcia? Thank you.
Aloha, everybody.
Aloha.
I'd like to take the time to thank the department, the planning department, to actually trying to set up these rules. I've been in here listening to everybody. Not once I heard anybody talk about concern about their neighbors, the security of their neighbors. I talked about how you guys own 8 homes, how you guys are trying to make ends meet. I work in the hotel industry. I'm a bellman. And I tell you something, it's because business like you guys right now, which we're trying to get set up to be registered and run by these rules, we need you guys to do this. It's the rules. This is Hawaii. I'm born and raised here. I look around in this room, probably have a handful of people, maybe 5 of us, that's born and raised here. Our county is trying to get some rules set up. This is a rough draft. You guys are attacking them like it's the rules already. We're trying to set it up, trying to get you guys to run legally. Because of you guys' businesses right now, a lot of the local homeless is because of you folks.
There's so many empty homes in Puna. Have you ever looked at them?
Did I talk when you talked?
Sorry.
You guys just don't see the big picture. Consideration for your neighbors. Have consideration for your neighbors. Look, I work at a hotel. We provide security. What kind of security are you guys providing for your neighbors? Nothing. Not once you guys mentioned security. Are you guys paying medical for your workers? 2 workers? I doubt it. That's what the hotel pays me. Okay? So you guys need to think about your neighbors, because you know when you're not there, which you guys are not, it's your neighbors that's going to watch your property. Have consideration for your neighbors. Follow the rules. I want to talk about the ordinance. I think you guys should pay every year registration. Same like our vehicles. This might be a precedent set that we're not going to need to pay registration vehicle because of this. This is one way that we would control if you guys have paid your fines. Same way they find out if you don't have insurance, you cannot get your registration for your vehicle. If you don't have safety check, you can't get your registration for your vehicle. This needs to be looked at. People in the right zoning area, it's cool. People that is ag area, ag is for growing fruits, vegetables, flowers, you know. It's not for Airbnbs. Thank you.
All right. Next up, we've got Stefan Buchta and then Louisa Lee.
Hi, everyone. Boy, what an evening. I even saw Michael get flustered, which I haven't experienced, up here. And I understand with the energy in the room. And so I have some comments to the bill, but to the rules. But I also have a short comment. That's because Big Island Video News is here, so this is public. So you guys have to realize that Airbnb has opened the floodgates for mainland owners. And it has impacted neighborhoods, and it has driven up.
I'm going to ask you to address
Yeah.
us as the planning department.
Okay.
And address the rules that are in front of us, and not to the audience, please.
Well, okay. So I have presented to the county council, and I've looked at a lot of other ordinances. I continue to look. For 2 years, I've been looking at ordinances. This is the most lenient ordinance that I have come across. Thank you for going through the process of putting these rules in. I know this is hard. It's been hard. We let this problem run. I counted this weekend, there's 6,070 of Airbnbs out there at this point. VRBO's Airbnb, there's 6,700 in Oahu, so we're almost close there. This is a very high number, and so something has to be done. There's no question. This is severely impacting things, and it's a global problem. So just look around and see what other cities have done before you raise objections, and you will see that this is incredibly lenient. This is far, Well, okay. So then, so I want you guys to realize that, okay? We're also only hearing me here, and money, 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 and I'm, just, okay. Okay. So regarding planning department rules, there's a rule about weddings, graduation parties, and other special events. And what is the process for that? It's not clearly worded in there. I'd like to understand that, because that's an additional layer of business on top of hosting tourists in a unit. It would be great if you guys could tighten up the definition of guest. What does it mean, a guest? Does it mean everybody attending the graduation party or wedding? Or is it really someone sleeping there? Because that's something we observe all the time in our neighborhood that's been transformed through this type of business. What happens to those that open up in defiance of Rule 23? Maui experienced the same ordinance went in 3941. There were quotas, but pretty much the same in May 2012. 160 got permitted, 2,000 opened up. I don't want to relive this. I put this on record. We don't want to wait 2 years later and see in 2,000 open up again and not really going through nonconformists, but trying to hide behind LLCs and, anyway. So there is more than 5 rooms in definitions, and I'd like to have that clarified. I think I've asked you already. The bill does not say that there's an extra rule for more than 5 rooms. So, that is something that, yeah, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, Louisa Lee, and then Ted Piercig.
Louisa Lee. I'm clearly the minority in this room. I would like to speak directly to the non-conforming use permit and the process of enforcement. So as a community member who has gone to the planning department to voice concerns about an existing vacation rental and having to go to the Board of Appeals, I would like to see the process through which communities can advocate for themselves and make complaints become a lot more clear. So when our community went to the Board of Appeals, we had to hire an attorney in order to get through that process. And I don't think that it's fair to expect communities to have to sift through the very difficult task of understanding all the community rules and foot the bill for an attorney in order to make complaints to protect their neighborhoods in areas that require non-conforming use permits. And so I really feel like the guidelines on making complaints and enforcement, especially if the county is saying that enforcement is going to really depend heavily upon neighbors and communities, that process has to be made a lot more clear if enforcement is going to be a reality. The way the rules are currently written, it really leaves a lot up to the director to determine whether he is going to enforce the rules or whether he will not enforce the rules. And I would like to recommend that an external agency, not the planning department, be responsible for enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you. Ted Piercig, and then Mary Finley.
Aloha, my name is Ted Persig, and I've been a Volcano resident for 30 years. I own a single, fully permitted house which I've operated as a vacation rental for the past 3 years. I understand that certain restrictions need to come into place regarding STVRs, but I worry that these rules are being written so narrowly that they don't allow for real-life situations. There seem to be a number of occasions where the law was clearly stated, but these rules either make it more difficult or add entirely new restrictions not in the law. Also, some of these rules are written with a certain rigidity, which is perplexing. They view an STVR house as a static object, which has only one function, short-term guests. But I know many people in this business who use their vacation rental houses in multiple ways, such as a winter home for themselves or a place for a family to stay, sometimes on a long-term basis. These draft rules make such other mixed uses far more difficult. Imagine this scenario. Mauna Loa erupts and half of Hilo is covered in lava. The tourist market tanks and there is a critical shortage of housing. Vacation rental owners decide to convert to long-term rentals to help people out. But under these proposed rules, if they cease doing business as an STVR for a year or longer, they could lose their STVR registration forever. So built into these rules is a very strong motivation against changing to long-term rental, which is ironic given the original aims of Bill 108 related to rental housing supply. In that same scenario, having no income because tourism has collapsed, the STVR owners head to Oahu or the mainland for work. Then while gone, a neighbor or a county agency calls and is unable to reach them within an hour by phone or within 3 hours at the site. Despite the fact that the house is not currently operating as an STVR, they could lose their STVR registration forever as there is no provision to suspend this, quote, reachable rule when the house is not operating as an STVR. Or what if someone wants to bring their elderly parents here to live out their days? Do they choose between their parents and permanently losing their STVR registration? With a Hawaii contractor's license, one has the option of taking inactive status indefinitely as long as license fees continue to be paid. Why is that not an option here? And why do these rules actively discourage the renewal process? Real estate taxes, car registration, you receive a renewal notice in the mail. The state issues renewal notices for business licenses and for contractors' licenses. Why do your draft rules prohibit renewal notifications? We're trying to pay you money. In conclusion, please include flexibility in these rules such that an STVR registered house can be put to other uses such as long-term renting without jeopardizing its STVR registration status. and correspondingly allow the reachable rule to be suspended when the house is not being operated as an STVR. And the references in here are section 23.3J, 23.12C, and 23.12E5. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mary Finley, and then Richie Henderson, please. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mary Finley. I am a 43-plus year resident of Volcano. I live in the Volcano farm lots, which were created for farming. It is on a one-lane road that is 10 feet of pavement. It's a dead end, and there's 32 lots. There are several people trying to do vacation rentals on our road. It creates hazard since we have only one way in and it's 10 feet wide. Visitors don't know how to drive on a one-lane road. They barrel down the middle, force you into the mud, or worse yet, into a water-filled ditch. There are also culverts on the side of our road, less than 6 feet from the pavement. There's a 15-foot ditch. It's marked by a couple of plastic reflectors. I'm here to say, at least for certain areas, short-term vacation rentals are not appropriate. If the road was two-lane paved, set up for two-way traffic, then maybe. But right now, Ag 20 is a very rare designation. Our area was created for farming. It should remain in farming. And just to back up this local gentleman who talked about the homeless problem. Yes, I have grandchildren who cannot find a decent place to rent because almost all of what was used to be reasonable places to rent, a lot of them have been fixed up and now they're being rented for visitors. So the growth in short-term vacation rentals has definitely affected the lack of affordable rentals, especially for our young people struggling to survive. That is all.
Thank you. Next, we have Gina Jones and Chris Corley after that. Will you please the microphone, please?
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Gina Jones, and I'm a professional property manager with Hawaii Life Real Estate Brokers. I manage a lot of vacation rental properties. As many of you know, we lost a lot of that inventory to the lava flow, but we have rebuilt the business. A lot of our homeowners came back and reinvested in the area, and we're actually still working on some of those houses, trying to get them ready before April 1. I want to see clarification on the language in Rule 23, Section 3I regarding the before April 1 language. When in 23.10.5 states that the director must be satisfied it was being used as a vacation rental on an ongoing basis. This was not in the ordinance, and until the draft rules came out, we were putting ourselves at risk by potentially improperly informing our clients based on the language that was in the ordinance. I have clients and friends who winter here from Canada who are building now, and we're planning on doing short-term vacation rental the rest of the year. But if the language sticks, their years-long dream is gone. They have their tax IDs, they're ready to go, but they won't have the history before 4/1. Other clients, closing was delayed due to the government shutdown as it was a GSA auction sale. We finally closed and it needs many renovations, the home, and it probably also won't have history before April 1, but he's hoping that this language doesn't make it through. Right now, a very large company in Lower Puna, which shall remain nameless, has a dozen or more of our vacation rental homes rented. And they continue to approve extensions, and right now, most of those homes are rented through July and might even very well go to the end of the year. Because they don't have hotels to stick their guys in, and they need them to be close to the plant. But all of those homes could potentially be on the chopping block in the end of the day at the director's discretion. Even if they've been a compliant vacation rental for 10 years, they might not make the cut if you decide that the area is now oversaturated. That's really all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Chris Corley, and then Charlene Murakami.
Thank you for allowing me to testify on the County of Hawaii's Rule 23, short-term vacation rentals. My name is Chris Corley, and I'm testifying specifically regarding the volcano farm lots on Ma'omao and Mahi'ai roads. My family has been active in agriculture since 1966 in the volcano farm lots. That's 54 years. The volcano farm lots is made up of prime agricultural land as created and designated by the Territory of Hawaii in the 1950s. Of these 36 30-acre parcels, more than 10% have been taken out of production and turned into short-term vacation rentals. This is in direct opposition to the agricultural sustainability goals of the county. In the past couple of years, more than 25 STVR units that I am aware of have been newly established in the farm lots. Our infrastructure is totally inadequate to support the traffic generated by the influx of visitors unfamiliar with the limitations of the infrastructure of the volcano farm lots. One example, as been previously mentioned, is our road is only 10 feet wide and the shoulders are unreinforced raw earth. Our road is critical to support farm vehicles so that we can deliver vegetables and other farm products to the markets on the Big Island. The volcano farm lots are valuable and prime farmland. And if the county is going to approve taking these farmlands out of production in favor of establishing short-term vacation rentals, I ask you to consider that the Ag 20A zoning be revoked and zoning for resort and hotel be applied along with appropriate taxes and infrastructure requirements. Again, I am addressing only the volcano farm lots on the Ma'omao and Mahi'ai roads. Thank you.
Thank you. Charlene Murakami, and last signed up to testify is Sophia Eunice.
I want to thank the county housing or planning for drafting this bill, and I support you. Although I think a lot of people here do pay their taxes, I think a lot of people that have vacation rentals are not paying taxes. That's why we're not having our infrastructure being paid, our schools getting good money, and stuff like that. I am a homeowner. I live in my home. There are people around me that are business owners that have vacation rental in their business. I get people parked in my deeded stalls. I get people trying to get into my home at midnight because they're vacation rental people and they don't know which condo they are and they don't have a front desk and there's no security. I feel bad for people in home residential areas where once it's low season and they're all vacant, they have nobody to watch their homes. They can be the only one there watching everybody else's vacation rental, but should they go out to dinner, they don't have anybody watching their homes. Hotels, yes, they have more higher rent rates because they provide that for the guests. They host the guests. They provide security and safety. Also, I do support that you folks are requiring permits. I think once you become a business owner and not the homeowner, I believe that the people staying in your unit you're responsible for providing their safety and security. You can't have plumbing and wires all jimmied for them to be in a dangerous situation. You become a business like all other businesses and should have permits. For rezoning, I think when you buy into a particular zone, you have that expectation, that's why you're buying that. But if you're gonna have people change the zoning and have activities next to you that are not what you expected, you're gonna be very angry. I'm very curious as to how many vacation rental owners have things next to them that they don't like, that they didn't expect when they bought their actual home.
I don't know. I don't think planning will have a say on this. It's probably council, I think I heard. But is there anything set to review the effects once this is in place after so much time? Does it take more of an uproar to bring that to reevaluation on how it hurts our economy on the island? And there's other details in here that I could bring up, like 23, well, actually, no, that one's taken off. Sorry, you removed some today that I had planned, but I won't talk about. Also, I just hope there's a time afterwards, once it's implemented, to see the economic changes on our island, and if there can be a reevaluation of it. Because I kind of see prices going up in hotels and vacation rentals because there will be less inventory. This is going to weed out a lot of people. Plus, there will be no more new ones after April 1st. So as things dwindle down and rates go up, what is our economy going to look like on this island? Because we all depend on that. And I hope there is an evaluation after, just so we can follow it and adjust as we need to. That's it. Thank you for letting me talk.
Thank you very much.
However, the very few vacation rentals that rented to people who lived here, there were usually more people in that rental than the rental was meant, a 2-bedroom with 8 or 9 trucks of people coming to it, and they were the ones that were loud. And the same with another vacation rental that mostly had people from the island. When you get people from the mainland, they only have 1 car. So locals are bad.
Okay, guys, excuse me, please. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Excuse me. This is an opportunity to take testimony on these rules. If you would like to have a discussion after this, you're welcome to Vala'au after this. We'd like to wrap up. Okay, so really quickly, there was a question earlier on about where are we at in the process, and will there be other opportunities to provide input. Today is hearing number 2. We will have a 3rd hearing April 2nd in this room at 6 p.m. As the director stated before, we hope to have in the next 2 weeks another draft of the rules available on our website so that you guys can take a look at it, have a few weeks to digest it prior to the April 2nd hearing. You can go ahead and come back and give us verbal testimony. In the meantime, if you have thoughts, you can provide us with written testimony. Then what we've got from there is about a week. We're tentatively giving ourselves to consider the testimony that comes in at that April 2nd meeting and finalize a draft of rules for adoption. They then need to go to the mayor for him to sign off on, and once the mayor signed off on them, they go to the county clerk. According to our rules, there is a 10-day waiting period at the clerk's office before they go into effect. So as it is right now, we are tentatively expecting that the rules will go into effect April 19th of this year. We are in the process also of coming up with several documents. A lot of the things that were addressed tonight about what does a notice to surrounding property owners letter look like, what's a compliance document, those types of things. The planning department is in the process right now of finalizing these documents that will be a part of your application packet, as well as some more specific guidance on how to guide you through the application process for the different types. We're also in the process of coming up with a pre-screening process so that you have the information that you need, that we have the information that we need in your application to come in, so there's not a lot of back and forth kicking it back to you because it's incomplete. So there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that's not ready for prime time just yet, but we're tracking along for that third hearing, and once the mayor signs off, having those things available to you in anticipation of, right now, the tentative April 19th start date for accepting applications. With that, I'd like to turn the time back over to the director and let him finish up.
So real quickly, during the break, you had the best question that stumped me over 2 nights. Can you go to the microphone again and ask the question about hosted rentals again that you had asked me?
Okay, my name's Rita D. Alvarez, and we would have a hosted vacation rental because we live there. But I was wondering, if we don't comply with this, and 5 years down the line we want to sell our home, and somebody wants to buy it, and they want to have a vacation rental, is it too late for them to apply? Have they lost that opportunity? Is that a yes?
Yeah, I'm not answering question. It's just, that's a pretty big legal question, but that's why I wanted it on record, okay? I don't have any, like last night, the second part was hefty still, not tonight. So a couple of things. Somebody had brought up people renting to lava survivors right now, and do they lose status to be able to go back to short-term vacation rentals? Although it's not reflected in rules, that's clearly the intention. I've clearly explained to council that that was always the intention, that if you're helping lava survivors right now with housing because of the shortage here, you know, we don't want to penalize you. But in trying to get the heavy lift of this, we hadn't had time to think about, okay, you always sit there and say that's the good thing, but then what do you do with the folks that then carry on renting to a lava survivor? What's the cutoff? Is it a year? Is it 2 years? You know, and at this point, we just kind of had stopped at this point. But clearly, it's not our intention that if you took your short-term vacation rental and renting out to a lava survivor, and we probably would want some kind of proof of that, probably through FEMA registration or previous address or something, that we want to show the flexibility for you to go back to short-term vacation rental. Once that proclamation ends, then it becomes a little problematic what that cutoff date is. But in my head, thinking that was probably the second best kind of comment earlier about how to address that. Lastly, so housing was brought up, and we're not going to deep dive into housing, but I spent 20 years in affordable housing before taking this job. So it's really important to me. It is a complex situation, and it's just more complex here on the island. So you cannot sit there and just say it's one thing that causes the housing shortage. And as this administration is working very hard to figure out all these avenues to create greater supply, which is the answer, so it could be creating easier abilities for more Ohanas, creating more areas where, you know, moving things from ag to rural, then you can do a second unit on it, a Ohana unit. You know, we're thinking of all the different avenues that will add to that supply, okay? Trying to get modular, working with HPM on factory-built homes. So we're trying to attack it from many different angles to try to address housing. But that brings me to the bigger issue over what's the next step. So we're hearing about hosted rentals, agricultural lands, vacation destination zones. I know it's no consolation to you folks, but Kauai and other places have outright zoned it out. Anaheim, Disneyland, done. A couple of years ago, they said, you are done. You can't do it anymore. You weren't given a choice, okay? Kauai created areas that you couldn't be in. You were Powell. Somebody had said this is one of the more lenient ones that they've seen, and I would agree with that. Lenient certainly not probably satisfying to some of you folks. But we could go to every major destination city now in the US and in the world, and they have vacation rental regulations. And if I were to ask what their rules are, boy, there's a mess of them. And I gotta tell you, as we were trying to craft ours, we pull rules from everywhere trying to say, okay, what makes sense, let's dump it in. And in some cases you're seeing, let's see how this flies, and if it doesn't fly, then we take it out. It wasn't meant to try to go one way or another. We're just trying to do our job. I would say get after the council to get to that part two if that's your concern. If you're in Volcano, if you're in Puna, you need to be able to and I believe Ashley Kirkovitz was here earlier. I didn't want to call her out, but Tim Richards, have been really hot on wanting to get to part two. But with every legislator, you always get into the office or you start your next term and there's just a pile of stuff. And you can easily get distracted with all the things that come at you. So it's your job as citizens to get to them, to help prioritize, to get fire lit under them on the issues that they really want to pick up. It was a heavy lift with this last one with Karen Eoff and Drew Kanuha. It's a great deal of time and commitment on their part. But if you feel strongly about it, that's where you have to kind of get them to do it. It's not the planning department's job. I heard a thing about economic feasibility, about the post decisions. That constantly happens not on just this issue. You know, we're planners, so we're constantly doing general plans, community development plans. Community development plans are addressing vacation rentals. Okay, and trying to get down into, although the general plan may address it at a very high level, within each area that we have a community development plan, they are trying to create some language around what that community feels is right for vacation rentals. And up to now, it hasn't, most of them were written 10 years ago. It hadn't become this big issue. So I wouldn't say it's been robust language in them to this part, but many of them, after we finish general plan this year, we will start updating the community development plans. Puna and Kona are probably the first two because they're two oldest one that we would be slated for it. So for many of you in the Puna, you're on deck in probably 2020 to be able to start looking at that CDP. That'd be a great time to be looking with your council around vacation destination zones in Puna. Okay. So the timing's aligning that. Now, it's still out there. I'm sorry. It's just, there's still the wheels of bureaucracy and planning that are in place. And I'm definitely not a planner that wants to just have things sit on a shelf. We need to be able to implement. That's what Mayor Kim wants us to do. Question?
One more question. Let's say you own an acre in HPP, Hawaiian Paradise Park, and you have two houses on it, and you can rent one out as a vacation rental, you can live in the other one, and it's called hosted. Now let's say you live in Hawaiian Beaches, and you have a tiny lot with a house on it, and you own the house next to you, and yet, even though you could practically look in that window, you cannot call that a hosted, hosted vacation rental, even though you live even closer than you would if you had more land, just because it's a different TMK.
Correct. So basically the situation is, in one case, you could have the same property, have two houses, one you live in, and no problem. You're permitted hosted. Then the other situation is two different lots. You live in one, and you could look into your next door house that's on a different property line, and that's not okay. That's the situation now. Right now, the bill does not create that a distinction for you to be able to do it. Again, I would hope that if there are major problems with the bill that are in place now, that it gets addressed in part two. And again, not great consolation if you're in it today trying to get things done, but that's how we create laws and land use around here. Okay. Thank you for your attention tonight. See you again in about a month, I guess. Oh, I got to officially close the hearing, so I've just done that. Thank you.